Welcome. My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I want to say thank you for tuning in to try to figure out some more about your dog. There's all this chaos going on around me. It just seems like that's the chaos that's going inside of everyone's homes with working with your dog. And one thing I want to talk about today is when I just take my dogs out here into a random new place, and I guess we're walking down a very busy road, I guess I would say. Not too many people out today because I think it's going to rain. But besides that, I just noticed that a lot of people are running into issues because of this thing called fear, and fear in the dogs. And when the dogs get into fear, what is it that we should be doing with them? What is it that we should be focusing our time on to be able to get them, like said, through that fear, as opposed to running it, getting worse and worse and worse. So one thing that I want to talk about with this fear is the dog should understand that you are that place to be able to give it a level of peace and joy. You should be that thing that when they come to you, they know that things are going to be good. That something on the outside, we don't know what's going on out there. And then this is the part that I think that a lot of us are just really just my opinion. You know, I don't know everything, but just my opinion of what I believe that majority of people are messing up with their dogs and getting them to get more into the fear and not actually able to get through it. And I'm going to say that's the concept of thinking that you're going to like train the dog to do that, as opposed to it just being a situation where you're just able to understand that training is not going to get the dog out of the said fear that is in. Training is not going to get the said reactivity out of the dog. And the main thing that we're doing with these dogs is we're touching them too much. We're giving them too much attention. We're giving them too much of anything at all when they're running into that case that they are starting to become fearful. And that's what's continuously making the dogs keep getting worse and worse and worse. That's why when you're watching some videos of people giving treats to some dogs, this is the thing that we all need to pay attention to. I'm just a 100% firm believer on this. There's not one way to work all dogs. There's one way to work your dog, but you got to figure that out with your dog. And just because you see something from someone else do something with their dog does not mean that is going to be able to work with you. Like I can say with my shepherd right here. He doesn't really care for all this. So he just stays right next to me, he's just with me. Then he gets a little sense of like peace inside him. He's like, okay, it's not so loud, it's not so busy. Okay, now I can go and explore a little bit more. But so this dog right now, I'm gonna say, is in a little sense of fear. He's unsure. He doesn't know what the heck is going on right now. So for him being unsure and being scared, me trying to give him treats right now is gonna continuously keep making him stay in that I'm fear, I don't know what's going on right now, as opposed to me just walking. And he's gonna realize day after day, time after time, that there's nothing to worry about, that everything is all right. There's nothing to have to be scared about out here. But if I give him a treat right now, thinking that that's gonna help, like what you could say, excite him, you're gonna excite him more into fear. And that may sound weird, but that's exactly what's going on with these dogs. We're putting them further into the fear as to taking them away from it. And that's where a lot of times, where my just personal opinion, that we're messing up the most, absolute most, the most that we're messing up is by touching the dogs when they're scared. I get it. We as humans, this is something that humans do. When we see something else nervous, it's just human nature that we want to like give it a hug. You know, how amazing is it that you're just not really feeling all that great and someone just comes and gives you a hug? It is something to be able to just calm you, soothe you, relax you, make you chill out, just ground you to realize like, hey, everything is okay, it's not that bad. But to a dog, the dogs don't see the world that way. The dogs see that touch as, oh, you're more scared than I'm even scared. So that's where you start to lose confidence in your dog, because then your dog starts running into the situation that the dog isn't going to be able to trust you because it doesn't think that you have the confidence enough to even be able to be out here to do anything for it. So that's why you're constantly moving backwards and backwards. And that's where, for sometimes, in some cases, because I've seen this personally my own self, you can give a dog a correction when they're scared, and it snaps them out of it, and it makes them, like, say, not be scared anymore. But that is something that is, at the end of the day, very, very short-lived. The dog looks like it's cured, because now you came in with a sense of just say authority. You came in with some authority to the dog, and then the dog is like, oh, okay, I'll listen to you. You're pretty confident. You're pretty bold. You're pretty tough out here. But then you run into that situation that you can't keep up with that, because you can't just keep, like, say, correcting the dog over and over and over and over and over again and think that that's going to be able to give you a dog that's going to respect you in any sort of way. The dog in the end is going to have the most extreme level of disobedience, because at first it starts off with like, cool, I'll listen to you, but then it starts to turn into an absolute just high level of danger in reality. Because some of these dogs, if you keep correcting them over and over, they gonna do something about it. They gonna put their teeth on you. I don't care how sweet and how nice and how adorable that dog is up front to you, but at some point, in some moment, that dog is gonna have to react. And that's where everything, not everything, but most everything, you know, I can never say alls and nevers, but most everything out here with working with these dogs is convincing the dogs to be able to get out of that fear with putting them further into the fear. And when we're doing that, we're thinking that we're going to train the fear out of them. And that's something that I think is extremely misleading with majority of the stuff that's being shown right now on how to work with your dogs. Because a lot of y'all are having issues with the said reactivity in your dogs. The dogs are barking at other dogs. The dogs are barking at people. The dogs are barking at cars. The dogs are barking at bikes. The dogs are barking at all this. And majority of stuff is talking about training. That is not a training thing. You're not going to train the dog to not want to bark at another dog. And if you can do that, please just everyone watch that success that these people are having. But clearly it's just not out there, because clearly it's still hard for me to just go places and see dogs that just don't want to bark like crazy at mine. Yeah, they slow it down because mine don't give them that energy back, but they're definitely very, very hostile with what it is that's going on. So if these methods and everything in this new age dog training is just really working all that great, then we should be seeing a mass level of success, but we're just not, because we're looking at it as it's a training issue. You got your dog and all of a sudden it's said like it's backing up and it doesn't want to go forward anymore. Oh, it's a training issue. I need to train the dog to be able to get the dog into a better place. I need to train the dog to get this reactivity. I need to train the dog to get it to stop being scared. I need to train the dog from stop jumping. I need to train the dog to stop digging. And these are not training issues. These are just what I'm going to straight say is relationship issues, but it's behavioral issues that you have to understand why the dog is doing it in the first place to do anything with even thinking about moving on with making any sort of change happen. And that's something that we're struggling with, because we're thinking that I'm going to be able to train this. And that's where, again, we're struggling. We're struggling. That's why most people are not getting help, because you're not setting the dog up to understand that you are that confident being that the dog wants to be next to. You're doing everything completely against the dog's nature. But yes, you are working with human nature. And that's where things get complicated, because the dogs are not human beings. They have certain characteristics. They have different things. They're super social and similar being with us, but they are not humans. They are dogs. So it is said natural, even for us as humans, to want to do. We can't do to a dog if the dog is in a sense of fear. If the dog isn't scared, you know, who cares? You could hug the dog. You could give the dog the treats. You could do whatever you want. But once that dog gets into that level of fear, those things just don't work. That is not the route that you want to take with working with your dog. You want to take the route of the dog being able to understand that you're confident and you're good to go, and you're not nervous, you're not worried, you're not anything. So the dog is going to be able to want to follow your lead, because day after day the dog is going to realize nothing happened, nothing good and also nothing bad. And this is the concept of properly socializing your dog. Nothing good has happened and nothing bad and crazy is going down. So we're just going to keep on moving forward and moving forward and moving forward. And we're not playing with their emotions, with getting them happy, getting them weird, because this is where you're playing psychological mind games with the dogs that is very, very damaging. When you're giving the dog those treats when it's in that fearful state. So it's going from fear and then it's going to excitement. It's going right back to fear and right back to excitement. It's just cycling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it's not getting anywhere out of that. So when you're constantly keeping on doing those cycles over and over, the dog is just going, at the end of the day, you do a little bit more research on this, the dog is going psychotic. And a psychotic dog is going to do, more likely, what you see that your dog is out here doing, is lunging and barking and going savage and going crazy and just being extremely wild with every single thing that's out here. And that's something that we want to be able to get our dogs out of. And it's not something that you want to try and play with its emotions with to be able to get the dog, out of that. There's something that you absolutely have to understand, that neutralness, nothingness, calmness, doing absolutely the true definition of nothingness when your dog is scared, of just have dog on leash. And I mean, don't even, because this is something that even dogs will start to do on their own. They'll start to lean up against you. I don't even want the dog to have no physical contact with me. I want the dog to be just going, doing what it's doing, and we're walking and we're making things happen. And that's what I want my dog to primarily focus majority of its time on. I'll let you go, man. Oh, you're all up in the camera. Come back, man. Give me your leash. Sorry, I let him go. He acting all pushy right now, but he a little nervous. And that nervousness, I don't want him doing nothing. And that's the main thing that I'm gonna say is, the best thing about being able to get a nervous dog to be able to be a super content is to get that dog off leash as fast as possible. But I understand it's not something that everyone is even desiring looking for, but it's something to be able to fast track your existence on this planet with being able to get your dog to just, at the end of the day, is I trust him, he trusts me. He's not gonna do anything crazy, he's not gonna do anything wild. The biggest thing is a lot of these dogs, they'll start to put their bodies on you. They'll start to like get close to you. They'll start to be just leaning all on you. You don't want the dog to touch. You don't want no physical contact. You just want to be with the dog, hang out with the dog, just be in tune with the dog, and just going through what it is that you see that it's scared of. And then if the dog gets to that point that it puts the brakes on, man. It's like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't want to have to be here and do this. And that's where you just wait. You wait a moment. You stop. You allow the dog to be able to collect its thoughts through. You allow the dog to be able to calm down. You allow the dog to be able to just refocus, and then we can go ahead and move forward. And sometimes that could take a while. That could take 20 minutes, depending on the situation of how far the dog has gone in being in that level of fear. And each dog is going to be very, very different with that. And then you don't want to push the dog too much, too fast, too soon, because that's going to put your dog into a situation that, for one, it's not going to trust you anymore. It's like, I thought I was cool with you, but now you just did a little bit too much. So for me, because I don't live in a say like very high area where there's a lot of traffic and a lot of cars and a lot of stuff, I don't really care to put my dogs around that so much. But if I did, that's what I'd be working on every single day. And you'd be very surprised that getting your dog to walk in a city with cars and people and even a lot of dogs around, because most dogs, when they're in like the very populated areas, those dogs are actually, for the most part, very, very nice dogs. It's the trails where I find the absolutely savage, crazy dogs. It's the backwood areas that any dog I see out there, that dog is like ready to go to battle. And it's much more, at the end of the day, for me, just my experience, and I know everyone's gonna say, oh, that's not true, but taking your dog on trail walks is way more complicated than taking them for a walk around any city on any sort of concrete. The concrete just destroys all the drives in the dogs, because there's rarely squirrels, there's no snakes, there's no bugs, there's none of that. And all that is pretty much gone. And so the dogs are smelling telephone poles and fire hydrants and things like that, and they're moving on. But in the trails, there is everything. There's snakes, there's armadillos, you in Texas, there's just everything. And the dogs are quick on edge to try to find everything. So you're activating all the drives, all the prey drive, all the everything out of the dog, taking them into the trails. And when you can convince your dog to not want to pull to go to get some squirrels, I'm gonna tell you, you can convince your dog to not pull to want to go get to a dog. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people really put a lot of time and emphasis in doing. Because I could take a dog that has been primarily, because I've done this many times, dogs that have been primarily living downtown, they're pretty much neutral to everything. Big buses, big trucks, big everything, and they're just not reactive to anything. And I take them on a trail and they are just wild. And most of that wildness comes out of basically fear. And that fear happens because I don't know what's going on out here. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where this is and what this is. I don't know anything. So we want to be able to get the dogs to just keep working them through that and through that and through that. And it's something for me that, I would have said 2 or 3 years ago that we could be able to get the dogs completely out of that fear. But at the end of the day, I realized that's not true. If a dog is kind of just, at the end of the day, a little bit of just who it is with what it is. And that's a concept that I could say, like us as humans, it's very, very similar. That if you're more fearful, I don't like 1,000 people around me all the time. That's kind of just who you are the rest of your life. Can you like deal with it? Yeah, you could deal with it. Just like how I can make this boy deal with the concept of going out and going to going where I was just walking him around all the cars and he could deal with it, but he doesn't like want to do that all the time. And that's something that, again, if I lived in that with this dog, I would just do that every single day. But since this is the part with me that I'm going to say it's going to be much different, the language that I speak of when I talk about dogs. When I see my dog is scared of something, I have no desire in me to, at the end of the day, like force the dog through it if I could do something else that he's not in that sense of fear with. So for me, I know that he's scared of walking around a bunch of people and going to a dog park and doing all that. So I'm not going to let him go there. I'm just like, whatever. We just don't do that, man. I don't care. But someone else is going to say, oh, your dog better do what you want. And I don't care that's the word that I'm going to use there is compromise. I don't care to compromise with my animals, with anybody, human beings, anything on this planet. I'll compromise. My way isn't just this is it, this is what you have to do type situation. I'm going to be able to have the other thing to be able to have a say-so of what it is that we've got going on. And that's why for me, I don't care to force the dogs too much into stuff that if I've been working on it for the past year and it's still like, I don't know about this, I don't care to just keep forcing them past that. That's just my way of seeing with dogs. It might be, someone might say, oh, you're just running away from issues. No, I'm just making sure that I'm having a successful and a great relationship with what I'm working with. I'm not going to come into any relationship on this planet and just say, this is what you're going to do, and I don't care what you want, but this is what you're going to do. You're going to watch yourself just stumble and fumble. And that's why for me, I'm always looking for ways to be able to upgrade my dog's existence. And most of that upgrading is by allowing them to also be able to do stuff that they want to do and having them do a little bit of what it is that I want to do. And a little bit for me is actually a kind of a lot of it, I'm going to say at the end of the day. But at first, I'm explaining to these dogs what it is that they want to do so that we can be able to get that out of them. So it's like right here, that boy, he was walking all down in bottom cars and down all by that. He's like, I'll do it. But what you going to do for me, basically? And this is the part where the language gets confusing, because someone's going to say, if your dog is working or is doing it, it's going for a walk, you got to pay them. And paying them is by giving them treats and toys and all that stuff. And that is not payment. Payment is allowing the dog to just be able to be a dog. And that's what this dog right here is doing right now. He's being a dog. He's walking around, he's sniffing some stuff, he's drinking some stuff, he's chewing on some stuff. He's being a dog. That's what dogs do. Dogs don't like take a break and say, oh, it's snack time. No, they just eat and they move on and they do dog stuff. And that's where things are getting very, very complicated, because we're getting these dogs that are in a fear state and thinking that we're gonna be paying them to be able to get them through some stuff, as opposed to just having them just get through it. They'll naturally on their own get through it without us having to be all on top of them and just trying to do anything to them. That's where we have to disconnect our human emotions and understand what dogs are. And that's where you're going to start to find a whole higher level of success with your dogs, when you stop trying to put human qualities into them. You got to treat the dog like a dog. If your baby child is crying, yes, you want to pick that baby child up, hold it, say it's okay, mom and daddy's here for you, I got you. That's going to create a very, very nice, stable, nice, secure, nice, strong human being. But that does not work with dogs. Dogs are the complete, basically opposite of that. When they're doing anything that you do not want them to do, you just completely ignore it. You completely just give it absolutely no energy. Whereas for humans, they're doing something that you don't want. You got to bring it up. You got to address it. You got to say, hey, man, I don't really appreciate this. I don't really like that. Because we can process and think that through. That's not what dogs are. That's where I believe, I get it. I get it how we run into the situation that we're like, we want to treat the dogs and give the dogs all this extraness and extra and all this extra praise and all this extra stuff, because we're thinking that I'm going to be straight up, guys. I'm going to say something ruthless right now. It just is what it is. But majority of people that are hardcore on having to pay these dogs and having to hug these dogs all day and having to do all this stuff all day, they don't have any kids. And when you don't have any kids, you don't have any real world experience with understanding that concept. And what we're going through right now is a science project, seeing is this stuff actually going to work? And that's why for me, at the end of the day, I can say I really like science, because science isn't like a guaranteed. It's not 100% always right. It can fail. It can stumble. It can have to reevaluate what it thought it was doing, and then come back and just say, hey, you know what? We thought we were right with this, but we actually aren't right. So we got to come back and adjust some things. And that's personally what I see is going on with dog training right now. All this so-called science-based dog training is it's hoping that it works in theory, because the people that do the projects are not the people that are actually working with the dogs. They're in theory thinking this should work. So in theory, I get you. Everything that you're doing should work. But if it isn't, then what's going on with that? That means the real world application isn't lining up together. And that's where I'm going to say the complications that I know I'm just going to pretty much slap a guarantee on. In the future, you're going to see a big difference in what we're talking about with dogs and what it is that we're going to be doing with dogs and what it is that people are trying to understand about dogs. The concept of saying no to them is wrong, and the concept of making them stay with you is wrong. The concept of a leash is wrong. The concept of not giving them treats all the time is wrong. And we're going to run into that scenario that they're going to say, oh, we thought we were right, but we're actually wrong. So we gotta reevaluate and readjust some stuff to be able to make sure that we're gonna finally be able to get the success that we need. Because that's just the way the science works. It's not guaranteed. It's not like it's not the end game. It's not the end result. And we're constantly keep on working on it. So that's why I want a lot of people to just understand that if you really want your dog to actually just get better, and get better in a way that you're able to just be able to take them for a walk without them being reactive and jumping and going crazy at dogs. Stop thinking about the concept of, Kahi, come on. We're gonna walk up this way. Come on. You ain't gotta jump, you can go under it. Yep, yep. Just go all the way back around. Stop thinking about the concept that you're going to train the reactivity out of the dog. You're gonna train the dog to not be fearful, and understand that it's gonna take time. Understand that you're gonna have to put in the effort of being able to realize who your dog is. Understand your dog, and stop looking at someone else's dog and thinking that it worked for that person's dog and that person, so it should be able to work for me as well. That is not how this works. That is not how this works, and I hope that more people can just really understand that that is not how it works. You cannot correct the dog out of fear. You can make it look good for a little while, for a moment, for a couple of days, but then the dog is gonna go right back in it because we never fixed the issue with the dog being fearful. And that's why a lot of these techniques, they look like they work. Some dogs, I can slap a prong collar on it and it's like, oh, it looks like it's good to go now. You just masked it. You put a Band-Aid on it. You didn't do anything to that dog to get it to actually be able to get in a better place at all. And that's why it looks good for a little, and then it just keeps getting worse. And that's why it goes from I need the treats, and then now I'm going towards leashes, and then now I got a knee collar, and then it's still not working. And then you're like, what's going on here? Because all you were doing was just rolling the ball along. You weren't actually fixing anything or doing anything to the dog. And that's where we're thinking that training concept is going to be able to get the dogs to get in a better place. Kahi. And that is something that is just absolutely false. Absolutely false. You cannot have the dog, a fearful dog, be fearful of you to try to get the dog out of being fearful. That is just something that is just so absolute backwards. So absolute backwards to the point that it's not gonna bring any sort of success. And the same thing with giving a dog a treat, and the same thing with giving a dog's pets and praise, and the same thing with any of that. You are not going to be able to get that dog better by thinking that it's a training issue. It's a relationship issue. If the dog doesn't trust you, if the dog doesn't respect you, the dog is not going to be able to get out of its fear. If the dog isn't getting its needs met by you, its needs, what it needs, not what you think it needs, but what it actually needs, the dog's not going to trust you. And then in all that, that's where you're not going to get anywhere past any of this fearful stuff with your dogs. Because even if the dog is scared, the dog should know, I can come to you for safety. I can come to you for that level of peace and joy, that I don't need to go anywhere else. I don't need to try to fight and defend for myself, that I can go ahead and do what I need and stay close to you, and I'll be able to be good to go. That's what the dogs need to understand. And then you'll be able to dance your dog through this entire world, knowing that the dog may be nervous, but it's not gonna lash out. It's not gonna do anything crazy. It's just gonna come and hang out with you. It's gonna come and be relaxed with you. You see a completely different dog right now with how Kahi is at this moment compared to how he was walking back in front of all the traffic and all that. He doesn't like it, but he's willing to do it without freaking out, without just submitting, without folding, without just laying down and not wanting to move anymore. He's like, I can do this. I can do this is what's going on. And he'll do it because he trusts that I'm going to be able to make sure that he's going to be able to be safe. And when he knows that, and he sees that day after day, he understands that I'm going to be able to get all of his energy out, his drives out. He sees that I'm able to meet all his needs. He can rely upon me in pretty much anything in any situation. And that's what's happening with my Dalmatian. She's getting better and better. And she's going to get to that point that things are going to look really, really good with her. And I'm not here to rush that, because I'm not here to say, like, train the dog. I'm here to just build a relationship with the dog. And that's what's going to get the dog to be able to just completely relax. Something I want everyone to think about with your dogs, and how you see what someone is trying to sell you to get your dog to be in a better place. And most stuff that is being sold is a short-term fix. It looks good. It looks like it got it solved even within 24 hours. Like, oh, we're good to go now. But that's not the way that it is. Kahi. Kahi. Hey, man. I know it's loud. Come here. Come on. We're going back now. This dude is so funny. I don't know what it is about my dogs that I really appreciate them. But it's something that I've come to realize that is not a training thing that you're going to see success overnight. It's something that you're going to continuously keep on working on day by day by day, day by day by day, and just continue to keep on working on day by day by day. And you're going to get a little bit every single day, and a little bit and a little bit. Maybe one day you get a whole lot. You're like, oh, wow, this is great. This is amazing. But then we're just going to continue to keep on going day by day by day, to that point that now we're finally at a place that I don't need to worry, because we have so many days behind us now that things are looking really, really good. And now I don't need to I don't have no worry. It's like me, I don't have no worry that this dog is going to cross over and go into the street right now. I just don't care, because day by day, we know what we're doing, and we've been working on it every single day. So he understands what the rules are. He understands not even just to say rules, but just what the expectations are of we're here, man. We're hanging out. And he gets on mission. It's like, we want to keep walking. Some days he kind of wants to go a little bit longer than what it is that I want to go. But that means that I just got to go home and give him a little bit more, something that I need to give to him. But day by day is we just keep working at this over and over and over. It's not something that you're going to train out in 2 weeks. It's not something you're going to train out in 3 weeks. It's not something that you're going to get that way. It's something that we're going to continue to keep on working on to build that relationship. My dog needs to trust me. My dog needs to understand that I'm going to keep it safe. My dog needs to be able to believe in me that I'm going to be able to do that for him. And then my dog is going to be able to do whatever it is that I'm looking for. And it's just absolutely smooth sailing at that moment. Thank you. Yeah, Kahi. Ophie. Good girl. We'll get there one day.